got your attention now, don't I?
This is the Black Rifle Coffee Podcast. Prepare to get caffeinated.
Only officers are allowed to enjoy football.
Only officers.
That's right. It's an elite club.
Yeah, one would say it's an elite club.
It is.
Clay, it's good to see you, man.
You too.
We got so much to talk about, it doesn't really matter. We'll just get into it. So
All right.
Clay was talking to me earlier, and he was like, when he was walking around, he was admiring my leadership style. And is that
exactly right? Exactly. I want to be just like him when I grow up.
I was more appropriately telling him, like, nobody should ever copy my leadership style in any way, shape, or form. So we have a new podcast guy, right? And the other day, I had the guys over because I was doing Fox and Friends, and my podcast guy that was setting up the cameras, they were like late and all fucked up, and I went subnuclear.
Subnuclear?
Like, I don't know what that means, but I went like, I split an atom, and there was a big,
so it was like a fizzle.
Emotionally explosion. It was really bad for everybody because I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. This was the Fox
and Friends guys were there for this too?
No, it was 5 minutes before we were supposed to be on national air, and they're like, hey, so what account do we need to log in to do this? And I was like, you guys not do like rehearsals or what the fuck? So that was his introduction to me. That was his introduction. That was day one of me really, we'll just say I was very vivid, you know?
So not nurturing. Is that a fair statement?
Nurturing in some regards. Like if you were in a gulag, you know, like I would be the nurturing.
Yeah, like if you were getting tortured every day and this day you only got yelled at, that would be your best
That would
day?
be the nurturing. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That's a stretch, but yeah, okay.
So you're asking about Bears and the Buccaneers. We were talking about,
this would be a football team, not hunting.
So I went bear hunting. Well, kind of. I went elk hunting, and then we got a bear tag. Then we got a tag for a pig. I killed an elk, bear, and a pig all within 24 hours.
And you have to have a tag for a pig in California? Like
no, you don't. You just need a tag for the bear. You don't need anything. I don't think
for pigs in Texas, you can shoot them at will.
Well, this is California. Yeah. I was surprised you didn't have to like shoot them with, a free range, organic, vegan, non-binary bullet that just whispers in their ear and tells them to like
roll
die.
Over.
Yeah. You know, I was very surprised you could even shoot anything in California.
When you said you were hunting in California, I was like, no way.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Joe he's got it dialed out there. He knows where to go. So it was fun. I mean, that's my first black bear.
Yeah.
You know, he was running. Like we came around the corner, he was running.
What kind of rifle were you using?
6.5.
Okay. PRC or Creedmoor?
I think it was Creed. I think it was 6.5 Creed. It was the guide's gun because I only brought my bow.
Yeah, it's too hard to travel with a gun these days. Pain.
Well, not to California.
Oh, yeah. God, yeah. You've been secondary for like a month for that.
Yeah. I don't even know if like you can travel to California with a gun. I think you might be thrown in jail even if you just look at a gun in California at this point. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't press the test on that. Like I would not try. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just bought a 6.5 PRC.
It's a good rifle.
Summer. It is, yeah.
Or a good round.
Yeah.
What rifle did you get?
Now I knew you were going to ask that. It's Best of the West Gun Works out of Cody.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I got it, and the guy took me out on a range and dialed it in. So it's a beautiful gun. Yeah, I love it. So I'm going mountain lion hunting in Wyoming in January.
With who?
So there's a guy, Bo Stocks, who runs Savory Outfitters in
name.
Bo Stocks.
That seems like.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He hunts bear. You sleep in connexes.
Oh, nice.
And stay out there. Right. And then, you got to be on call. So you got to wait for fresh snow.
Right.
And then you fly out to, one of our board members has a ranch right outside of Saratoga, Wyoming. And so we go out there, and then we'll go out and shoot and see if we get something. So,
I think you'll probably have good luck.
There's
a lot of cats.
He said as long as you're not holding out for like a saber-toothed tiger type of thing, and I was like, as long as it's not bigger than a house cat, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Well, shoot a couple house cats too. I would imagine that there's some to spare. Don't we have extra
house cats?
I would imagine, right?
But they're probably not romping out in the snow and getting treed by dogs. Yeah. But yeah, I get your point.
You're hunting. So you're hunting pigs too. So
in Texas, yeah. I mean, they're not they're not native to Texas.
Yeah, they're invasive species.
Yeah. So we went out, shot them off of a helo. Mm-hmm. We had a blast. I mean,
were you out there with Pilot X? Or was somebody else?
No, the guy who runs it is Barrett Bloom, and I would love to give him a shout out because he donated. We did it sort of as a fundraiser for the Special Ops Warrior Foundation. We went out and shot 2 aside on a notar, so it was one of those little birds without the tail rotor, and we were flying under wires and
that's so
shooting
cool.
them. Oh yeah, we got a couple coyotes too.
Nice.
So yeah, it was a blast, and I've done it. I've been out pig hunting there 3 or 4 times. We went once at night. So we were shooting AR-10s, 308s with thermals. And then they have a drone with a thermal camera. So they launch the drone, you find the pigs, and then they vector you in, with one guide with an earbud. Yeah. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's great. Wait, you went out with Pilot X like how many months ago and flew?
I've only done the helo hunt once.
You flew the helicopter.
No, you're talking about at El Paso?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I flew the helicopter. Yeah, I flew the Little Bird with JT. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I flew the Little Bird around. It was like riding a bike. I said,
really?
Yeah, I screwed up the start. Like, because that's that one you got to, this is all pilot stuff out.
Yeah.
But you got to go from, you got to modulate the start on something. That one you didn't have to, but you had to do it at the right turbine speed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so... Anyway, he had to help me out with that. He said, because you'll overtemp the engine if you're not careful.
Got it.
But once he got the thing up, and I said, okay, now we got the big fan running.
Right.
Got it from here. So,
how much time had gone by? How long had it been?
Probably since I've flown a Little Bird.
Yeah.
Probably 10 years.
Really?
Yeah. But it's sort of your body. It's sort of like riding. It really is like riding a bike. I'm not saying that I could fly it. With 4 operators, 2 on each side, all, full of gas to a rooftop. I couldn't do that. But this was a light bird. And, it was El Paso's probably about a mile high, I'd say, something like that. Mm-hmm. So you got a little bit of environmental constraints there. But no, it was fine. It was fun. I went out and flew around. JT was there and critiquing the hell out of everything I did. So I had to be good. Because you guys are sort of not charitable on stuff like that. Like
no. We're charitable in other means, but not
it'd
with
be
our
like
birds.
one of your versions of nurturing sessions. Like it'd be something like that.
It's a good nurturing session.
Except that I don't want to have one.
I would never give you one. Like I have too much respect for you.
Well, thanks. I have respect for you too. Mm-hmm. I just don't say it publicly.
I don't either. Yeah, I don't want any rumors to get out that I'm lying to officers. I ran into a guy yesterday that we just hired, and he came up to me. He's like, hey, I'm new. I was an SF guy. And I was like, oh, what'd you do? And I like when I get that response because he's like, oh, I was a team leader. I was like, oh, what's up, sir? Did you go to West Point? He's like, I did. And they just start like healing back. And I'm like,
would you extend his probation period?
Yeah. I was like, okay, how long you been out? And then he just kept going. I've been out for like 10 years. Oh, okay, well, you've washed all that stink off you, Like you've been out for a while. You've washed all that stink off you. Don't worry about it, I got a few West Point people who work out here now.
Do you? Mm-hmm. My VP is a West Point guy. He was SF 7th Group, 82nd, then went to, the Q course.
Right.
And served as a special mission unit guy for years. Great guy.
Really?
Yeah, great guy. I mean, I was deployed with him multiple times.
Right.
But every guy's different, right? You get good ones, you get bad ones. Just,
Every guy's different.
Yeah, exactly right.
I like to carry on the lineage of like giving officers shit because that's fun for me. But
I've noticed.
I've got a lot of them that are very competent and professional that work for us. Like it's just fun because, Tom, the co-CEO, he was an officer.
I know.
Not a West Point guy. He's a Duke guy.
He was a Marine infantry. He's a great guy.
Yeah. Great guy.
I mean, he raised the mean GT level of this whole place when you guys hired him.
Very true. Yeah, I can't dispute that. I think, but the officers do need a group of people that actually do work. Like, so they can pontificate high in the ivory tower and talk about all the theoretical stuff. But then there's actually people that have to go out and do it.
Yeah.
They got to go out and do the blocking and tackling type of thing,
Well, it's good to have, and I'm not saying that my career path is recommended because it took me 40 years when it should have taken me probably 30 or 28.
40 years?
Well, almost 41, a month shy of 41 years.
Why don't you just round up? It seems like 41 is the right.
Then somebody say, "Well, you didn't work there really 41 years."
I say, is anybody really going to be like, out of all the months?
Well, I just want to be clear, right? So, and accurate. But the funny thing was, at my retirement ceremony, my youngest son was 17. He was sitting in the audience. This was in 2018. And he was like 2 months younger than I was when I joined. So instead of usually at retirements, they'll say, well, when Clay joined the military, gas was free. And they're, you know what I mean? I'm like, they were still flying biplanes. Blah, 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 blah. That's a standard.
Those are all standard jokes. Those are good, though. They're so good.
But for me, what really, I said, like, holy crap, my son I was his age when I signed up to be a Marine and went to MCRD San Diego. I mean, I think about it, and I was like, wow, that put it in perspective for me. Because, I mean, here I am, I was 17 when I joined and I was 58 when I retired.
58? You don't look a day older than 80. You don't look a day, so you're doing good. You're looking good. I would say, I mean, it's been you haven't had a lot of stress in your life.
Well, I appreciate
40
the
years.
fact that you're reinforcing my already sagging self-esteem.
So how long have you been out? 3 years?
Positive guy. Yeah, so it'll be 3 years, December 1st.
Okay.
Formally, and I've been, the CEO of the Special Ops Warrior Foundation that whole time. I just signed up for another 3 years, by the way.
Oh, nice. So is that you got to sign up?
Well, my contract was a 3-year contract, and I don't, but I stayed, and I like the mission, obviously. I like what we're doing. We're having an impact. And so I was like, or I could be sitting here trying to sell you and tell you why Black Rifle needs a Black Hawk helicopter for you to fly to work every day.
You don't fucking have to sell me on that. I already believe in that.
But you need one?
I believe in that. Yeah, I believe in that. We just, we have to get there. We have to get there.
Well, I'm going to send your contact info to Sikorsky then, and they'll start hitting you with...
Well, we have one. JT and I actually purchased one last year.
A Blackhawk?
Oh, not a Blackhawk. Sorry, Little Bird. We don't need a Blackhawk.
Is it that one that I flew out in El Paso?
It's one like that. They're building it for us because
no kidding.
Yeah, because Pilot X builds them, right? You probably saw some of his others. So he'll take the older birds and he'll get the parts and pieces and put them all together. And for basically half of what they would, if not less, of what you would buy them intact, ready to go, because they're 1980s or whatever age they are.
Yeah, they're older than that. I mean, they were
way older.
Late 50s, I think they started building them.
So he'll put them all back together. JT and I went in. We thought that would be a good investment because at the end of the day, he can use it and lease it out.
And is this going to be in El Paso? Is that where you're going to base it on? Yeah. I'll talk to JT about that. I'd be interested in taking a look at some pictures of it and see what you guys are.
Well, you'd have to come out and fly it.
Oh, I'd absolutely do that. And if maybe with you in the other seat.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, Toby, our chief operating officer, West Point grad, and Apache pilot.
Oh, he's a 64 guy.
She.
Oh,
that was sexually presumptuous of you, but yes.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. She's great. She hasn't flown for like 10 years, so maybe we should
both go out there and fly.
Mm-hmm. I think that would be completely safe.
Think?
Mm-hmm. I think it'd be fun.
No, listen, I've got probably somewhere between 500 and 1,000 hours in a Little Bird, but my total time's over 3.
Right.
But most of my time was 60.
Is that a lot?
For a commissioned officer, 3,000 hours is a lot. If you go to the 160th and see the W4s and W5s, it's not. the same in the senior warrants, especially the guys that have been during OIF and OEF. During that period, we flew a lot of combat time.
Yeah.
But yeah, for a commissioned officer, that's very respectable, I would say.
Right. What do the warrants typically retire with?
I think it depends. A lot of it is what kind of airplane you fly, right? So Apache pilots tend to get less flight time than like a 60 pilot, or a 47 pilot. So it depends. But I would say the range of 3 to 10,000 hours. So I know a lot of Little Bird pilots that have 6, 7, 8,000 and well over 1,000 hours of combat time. That was very common.
1,000 hours of combat time.
I had about between 300 and 400 hours of combat time, but so I was low.
Right.
But it really was timing, right? If I would have been a younger officer when after 9/11, my time was Panama, Desert Storm. I mean, I got some time in Iraq and Afghanistan, but I was more.
Did you fly in Desert Storm?
I did. I was a DAP pilot, direct action.
Right. Yeah.
We were going after the Scuds being shot into Israel out in the western by Al Qaim and out in that area. Mike Durant.
Al Qaim was a fucking shithole.
It still is.
It didn't get any better from 2005 to the time you were there.
No, I was flying there. You'd think about the guys that I was flying with. So Mike Durant was on one. We had 2 teams of 2 ships that were going up. One night we'd be pulling QRF. The next night we'd be flying up there. So Cliff
what were you
Walcott,
doing?
who was killed in Somalia. We were hunting Scuds.
Yeah, but how are you doing that? So would the intel come down?
You get intel, and we knew where they launched, we'd see where they launched from, right?
Right. Oh, okay.
And then they'd use that, and we'd just basically go hunting up there.
Right. So what'd you do? Load up a couple dudes how many birds would go out with you?
2. We go on 2 ships.
Okay.
And so we go up as a 2 ship. So we had one mission to support ground forces that were operating up there doing recce.
Right.
And then we had, but my mission was sort of independent of them. We'd go up and look for them, and we'd find them. We'd find parked under power lines and things like that along the border. Now, it's arguable whether those were decoys or real.
Oh, right.
And I looked at them and there's pictures on the internet of them. Our sort of Mike Durant and I argue over whose FLIR picture it was, jokingly. But they looked real to me. But they could have, if they were mock-ups or decoys, they were very sophisticated.
Right.
And so we'd shoot them up. But I know that after we started going up there, the Scuds being shot into Israel dropped off dramatically.
Really?
Yeah, we had at least a deterrent effect.
Yeah.
So, but it was a long flight. We'd fly from Saudi all the way up. So we were in the air 4 to 5 hours. And, so we'd plug in ox fuel tanks on the floor.
Right.
And the aircraft were super heavy on takeoff, just to have enough gas to get up there and get back, Yeah,
I was going to say 4 to 5 hours.
It's a long time.
That's a long time.
So,
and what kind of guns are on that?
So back then we had 2 fixed forwards miniguns, 7.62. And then we carried 2 19-shot rocket pods, 2 7.5s, folding fin rockets.
Right.
That was our primary armament. After that, they carried the M230 30-millimeter gun, which is the same gun that's on the Apache, but ours is hard-mounted on a wing. It's not an articulating gun. We carried Hellfire missiles in Iraq and Afghanistan and still shot rockets and miniguns. The miniguns are good, especially if you're close into friendlies, so you don't get as many ricochets. A 30-millimeter... The lethal bursting radius, if my memory serves me correct, is 3 to 5 meters per round.
Yeah.
At a cyclic rate of fire of 600. So friendlies are too close. You got to be very, very careful.
Yep.
So we use the miniguns for situations like that. And they still carry fixed forward miniguns to this day.
Yeah. I've seen them. I've obviously been
the
around
DAP's
them.
a good, it's a good weapon system. They've developed it over the years. Yeah. And it's, it can keep up with Blackhawks and Apaches. Now, I would say in defense of the Little Bird guns are, they're much better in an urban environment, especially. That's really, they can turn quicker.
Yep.
They're very precise, but they have limited ordnance.
So how'd you aim that hard mount on the side? Did you just have like a grease mark on the window or something?
So the Little Birds run a grease pencil mark, right? Okay. So And the way it's not scientific. You
Sure,
go up, so you got your two pedals in front of you.
Yeah.
You go up, I think it's either the left or right pedal, I can't remember. But you go up and then you count the rivets up the side of the windscreen, and then you draw an X, and then you shoot. And so you count the rivets, so you got sort of some consistency in your grease pencil mark. And then, you might adjust it.
Right.
Or use Kentucky windage.
Yeah.
And shoot that way. So, and the Little Bird guys are incredible at shooting. The DAP has a heads-up display in the cockpit. It's called a CCIP HUD, which is continuously computed impact points. So it, based on whatever ordnance you put in there.
Oh, okay.
So if you say I'm shooting 30, that's the selected weapon system, then that thing adjusts to the ballistics of a 30.
Oh, that's cool.
Or a rocket or minigun.
Right.
And they also have hard-mounted lasers on the nose that you can put on the target.
Oh, so you can paint?
Yeah, so you come in and you've got, it's just like shooting a red dot. Right under your nods. You see it there and you shoot with that.
Got it.
So that's how they shoot.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. I think we should probably get some miniguns. We have some, so we'll have to mount some. Yeah. We built this Tesla that has miniguns mounted in it.
A Tesla with minigun.
Yeah, it's a Tesla X.
Doesn't
everybody have that? It's a Tesla X
I'm pretty sure
minigun.
Everybody doesn't.
Everybody has that, I think. The doors open and the miniguns come out and operate them.
I'd definitely love to have one.
You don't have one?
No.
Weird.
My wife, my CFO, being my wife, may put the King's X on that one. Hey, I got a great idea. I want a Tesla with miniguns that pop out.
Yeah, we thought it would be a good idea for...
heavy traffic?
Yeah. We wanted something. We wanted to go green. We were really, this is part of our green initiative.
So you put miniguns on an electric vehicle?
Right. Yeah. So we wanted... because there's so many people that like to say that we went woke. We're like, well, we got to go green and let's put some miniguns on a Tesla. It seems appropriate to me.
I didn't realize that you were so environmentally conscious like that. I know.
I'm putting solar panels on the roof.
This whole podcast is very revealing for me.
It is. Yeah. It's we're putting solar panels on the roof here in Salt Lake.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. Salt Lake and Manchester, actually, both.
Manchester. Is that Tennessee?
That's where roasting? Yeah, that's where roasting is. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I love solar power. I got solar power. I got solar in my fucking house.
Do you?
Yeah, of course, because I think it's awesome. I think it's so fucking cool. Like when you think about it from the scientific perspective, we're taking energy from the sky and it's free. You don't have to
harnessing it.
Yeah, it's fucking cool. Now, I understand, there's probably a bunch of people that are like, but the batteries, and they're fucking bad. And all that. I'm like, I don't care.
Right,
I think this is just really cool.
Less emissions into the atmosphere. But how, so do you see a noticeable decrease in your power bill since you've had it?
I've been waiting because this is the other thing. This is like, the lovely, and maybe there's somebody out there that can explain this to me because I don't fucking understand it and it really irritates me, which is, so I get solar panels put on the house and now I got to wait for the city, which is the power company basically, to come out and literally just turn the handle. But I have to wait months before somebody, if I turn this fucking handle to on, like if I were to turn it on, the fine is immense. So I can't flip the switch on this until the city comes out, tells me it's okay.
So they got to
turn
inspect everything, or
it's just a power company issue. And I have no issue against power companies. I have zero issue against any of this. I have issue when it comes to individual liberty and when it comes to bureaucrats interfering with my individual liberty. That's what I have a problem with, which is I have solar panels on my house. It requires a switch to turn it on. We should be able to do that. But we can't until the city tells us it's okay.
And are you in the queue for an appointment now?
I've been waiting for 90 days. Some people, it takes 6 months.
Wow.
For the city to come out and turn it on, flip the switch for you. So, needless to say, I think it's amazing technology. I love it. I think it's hyper interesting to me because I think anytime we can figure out a way to become energy independent, that's great, especially as a nation. I look at it as a national security issue.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's more independence, less reliance on foreign sources of energy. Yeah, I'm the same way with a Tesla. My only issue with them is they're not considered. I mean, I've read they're not as reliable as you would like, and I just worry about the range. Like, it's not like if you got a 350-mile range, and I'm driving. I had a son that went to NC State, so I'm driving from Tampa to Raleigh. Well, it's not like I pull into a gas station and plug in, and 5 minutes later I'm on the road again. It's 45 minutes or an hour, and I think feasible. The infrastructure is not there to support it.
Right.
I mean, I like the idea of it. If I thought I could, going back and forth to work, if I had a 3-car garage, which I don't, I'd do it. But I
would do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, I thought about getting one of those really small, like
the little
the Model C or whatever it is.
Yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, like a little hatchback kind of thing.
Yeah. Because
they're not that expensive, actually.
It's 15 minutes back and forth from me to the office. It's 90% of my driving. Like, there's no reason why I need my F-350 to take my 160-pound ass back and forth to work every day. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, one of my guy that I worked with, who worked in my outer office when I was at USASOC way back when, he had a Volt or something.
Oh, yeah, that Chevy Volt.
Yeah, he said, I mean, he's a great guy, but he said he didn't buy a drop of gas for like a year and a half.
Right.
So it depends what your profile is.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So for something like that.
For me, it'd be fine.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah. But for you, probably not.
Right.
Yeah.
Or maybe you just got to, you got to have a backup plan. Like, I'll take my wife's car if I'm going over a certain distance or something like that.
Here's an interesting question. Not really. It's just more curious than anything. Out of all the cars you've had, like in your long life,
okay,
what's your favorite type of vehicle? Some deep shit that we're getting into.
It is. It's very. I mean, you're stretching my brain. So my favorite vehicle, fun wise, right, was probably a Jeep.
Yeah,
Wrangler back
solid.
in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, I drove from California to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina in a Jeep as a E3. I had just enough money to make it. I couldn't pay for a hotel, so I pull outside the road, roll out my sleeping bag, and sleep underneath my Jeep, which was sort of normal back then.
That's normal.
You would get arrested for it today. But so I did that. Now, I had, when I was did a year in Korea, I saved up money. I bought a Porsche Macan. Which is a small SUV. There's a Cayenne and a Porsche Macan. It's smaller of the two.
Right.
And I loved that car.
Really?
And I loved it primarily because acceleration.
Yeah.
When I'm merging into traffic, I mean, that thing was turbo. I mean, it was like, you're getting sucked into your seat. And so I like that. But I'd say, when I was younger and single, I mean, I'd drive around with the top off. I'd hang out in my Jeep. And I mean, that was, probably one of my favorite vehicles ever.
Right. I could see that. Yeah. I was going to say like a FJ40. You struck me as like a FJ guy, like you know what those are?
No.
See? But it's basically, it's the Toyota version of the Jeep, right? It's like that old Wrangler style.
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought those things were Land Cruisers.
Land Cruisers.
First saw them.
Yeah.
I do love Land Cruisers.
Right, yeah.
Especially the older ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so do I.
It's just like I like the Defenders.
Oh, I love those.
Range Rover Defenders. Yeah, I really like those.
Yeah, that Defender 110, that kind of that standard safari wagon type. They're so cool. Yeah. If they weren't just such piles of flaming shit.
But everybody's buying. I mean, in Tampa, you can't go anywhere without seeing Land Rovers everywhere.
Really?
Everywhere. And I mean, everybody has them.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say everybody, not everybody, but
like the old style, like the 90s.
No. These are the
new
modern ones.
Oh yeah, I gotcha.
But no, the Defenders, I would love to have one, but they're hard to find, and they're not
dependable at all.
They're not, and so that's part of it. You can't have you got to have a car that you can count on when you turn the key. A better start.
Yeah, like I love those.
Did you know With Black Rifle Coffee's Coffee Club subscription, you can get fresh coffee shipped to you every month. What? You don't even have to go to the store. Whoa. You don't even have to leave your bed. What? Wow. How did you get in here?
You might want to go ahead and join the Black Rifle Coffee Club subscription before one of these guys shows up at your place.
More manual, less technology, four-wheel drive vehicles.
Right.
Like, I love them.
Which is like the old Land Cruisers, right? We're just like the old Defenders. They were what they rode on safaris and all that stuff. Yeah.
Like, it's like an AK-47. It's fucking fired every time. Like, turn it up, like whatever. But they're so not practical. They're not practical. Not for a guy that has two little kids, like a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, like where I need to have car seats and be able to like.
They're a fun vehicle.
They're fun and they're really selfish in the context of if I were just driving it around to, feel the British inspired wind in my fucking hair, like great, but it's not practical, man. I got to have like a new F-150 because it's never going to not start for probably the next 5 years, right? Because it's new and it's got, all the biz bang horse shit in it.
I rode with you on the first weekend you had it where the wheels were rubbing in the...
Oh, yeah, that pile of shit.
You were not happy.
I was not happy. I think that's kind of a modern thread of my life for Clay. It's like, man, you're not happy. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm pretty happy most of the time.
Yeah, I was riding up in the front seat. I think you started off our conversation with, I hate officers, right? I think that was like one of the first words you said to me. Yeah. And I was like, well, I'm sitting right here.
My best friend was an officer.
I remember there. And remember last time I was here, we had his widow here, which we surprised you with that. That was pretty cool.
That was really cool.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah. It was really cool.
And her kids are taken care of. One's at LSU, and I think the
other one's junior high school or sophomore in high school.
Yeah, she was here with her mom, and I think she's a good soccer player, I think.
Yeah. I hope she's...
No, they're in the program. I mean,
they're in the program.
Covered and no issue.
Yeah. Yeah, so he was also a West Point graduate and he was an officer. So I obviously don't have too big of a problem with them. But to be fair, he acted more like an enlisted guy. When I say that, he was more...
hands-on, more...
A little bit rough around the edges,
Edgy.
I wouldn't say humble. Because there's a lot of enlisted guys that weren't too humble,
In this community?
Yeah, in the SF community. We were talking about that earlier, which is really funny because what brought it up was I donated to Tulsi's campaign a couple years ago when she was running for president. People are like, I can't believe you did that. I'm like, well, I think it's awesome that female veterans are putting themselves out there, like putting themselves in the grind, just holding people to task because she was holding the Clinton political war machine to task on a regular basis. And she earned a lot of respect for me, right? Or I earned whatever that is. You guys know what I'm saying. And I took some heat over that. Took some heat over supporting a friend with $500 donation. And I think a lot of people don't get that because, my whole thing is that as a veteran community as a whole, we're really good at saying I'm a veteran, right?
Right.
We're really bad at times at supporting one another. And for whatever reason, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like a competitive issue because we were talking about it in the context of special operations community has, tiers, right? It's it's a fucking packing order. So you'll start at ground branch, right? We'll just say ground branch at the top and people can say whatever they want. I can say that word. It's in Wikipedia. It's everywhere. It's not as if I'm relinquishing national secrets. So just relax, every ground branch guy that thinks that you can't say that. Just read a Jack Carr book and you'll realize that you can. So they're kind of the top of the, clandestine ground pounder, spooky space. You get, got all the SMU tier trees and then it's, vanilla soft, which would be special forces and Ranger Battalion and SEALs and everybody has their own culture. And a lot of people really believe that they come from the best. And they should.
You're right.
They should. Like Special Forces is a good example, right? Every group is better than the other group, depending on the group that you're in.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Every battalion is better than the other battalion. Every ODA is better than the other ODA. Like they're all just like better, right? But it's all based on what group, what battalion, what company,
what ODA, the whole thing.
Yeah. It's like, well, I was on 1135, whatever. Yeah, those dirtbags in 2nd Battalion, whatever. It's like, yeah, it's all the same.
But, so a couple of thoughts there. The important thing to remember is, so if you're a SEAL or a Green Beret or a Ranger or a MARSOC Raider, you should have, just like you said, you should have pride. And, and I think it's okay to think you're the best. Mm-hmm. I think a healthy thing to remember is, okay, if you're a SEAL and you think you're the best, but let's say you had went, in the fork of the road, you went SF instead of SEAL, you would feel the same way about the SF community if you were at this stage, in your career as you would have if you were a SEAL. As a 160th guy, it was interesting because we flew everybody.
Flew them all, yeah.
Right. So we saw every community. We still do. I mean, it's not unusual to, fly SF or Rangers on a Monday, and Tuesday or Wednesday you're flying SEALs or Marine Raiders or AFSOC Special Tactics. And what I would say is they're all unique. They all have their own strengths and weaknesses. But they all contribute, and they give us an overall capability. Mm. The key is understanding, especially as you get older. Usually the arrogance and all of the things you're talking about are more the junior guys.
It's junior.
Right.
Yeah.
When they get a little more senior and they make friends that cross party lines or tribal lines, I guess is a better way to say it.
Might do an exchange. They might do
I flew with Air Force Special Ops Command from 92 to 96, right after Desert Storm as an exchange pilot. And it changed my career.
But what'd you fly?
I flew 60s. So back then they had 60 Gulfs and they had 53 Js. They don't have either one of them now.
So the food got better.
Food got better. The housing was better. But what it really did for me as a soldier was open my eyes that they're not the evil empire. We were in direct competition back then. And the intent of the exchange was sort of an exchange of prisoners, right? We had a guy go up to the 160th and fly, and I went down there. And it fundamentally changed the way I approached my career. I mean, I felt like I needed to, I understood them. I probably defused a lot of potentially difficult, hostile situations. When I say hostile, why can't they do this or why can't they do that? But I understood both sides of it. And I'm friends with a lot of it seemed like Scott Howell just retired out of JSOC. He was the first Air Force 3-star to ever command JSOC. We flew in sister squadrons back in the early 90s. We're friends to this day.
Right.
He's on our board of the Special Ops Warrior Foundation.
How many people do you have on your board?
24.
Wow.
It is.
Can you name them all?
I'm
not asking you to do that. I'm just wondering, because that's a huge board.
It is, and it's about half civilians, corporate, some veterans, some Vietnam vets, but then
that's cool.
We have a lot of military, and we have SEAL representation, Marine representation, Rangers, SF, Special Mission Units, Air Force Special Tactics. We have they're all represented on the board. Pat McCauley just retired as a SOCOM CSM. He's on our board. And then we have a lot of corporate types. And it's a really healthy, I think, different perspectives.
Right.
But it's certainly not contentious on the board at all. I mean, it's very collaborative and mutually respectful is what I would say. And I'm pleased. You're right. It is a big board, but it's not as difficult as I would have thought.
You do quarterly board meetings?
We do 3 board meetings a year. One coming up here in December. We do one in August, which is a virtual, we dial in, and then we do one in April right around the anniversary of Desert One, which is the organization. So that was April 24th, 1980.
Right.
And so we do a gala, local gala in Tampa, and we have a board meeting in conjunction with it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Maybe, how do you get an invite to that? Is that like
well, you got to know someone. And I think it's important you should be nice to that person. I think I might know someone. I might know someone.
So Desert One
was
1980.
Yeah.
You got to 160th what year?
I was in the military when that happened. I was a Marine, probably an E5. I was an E5.
You're an E5 in 1980? Wow.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, that's because I was in Okinawa. No, wait, maybe it was an E5 then? I came in 78. No, I was an E4.
You came in 78.
January 4th, 1978.
I was born January 29, 77. So you joined the Marine Corps.
A year after you were born.
A year after, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was 17. High school dropout, living in a foster home when I joined.
You had kind of an interesting background that we touched on in the past because you went to South Africa.
I did. I spent a year there with my mom. She was, if you ever see that movie, Cry Freedom, it was starring Denzel Washington. But what it was about was a newspaper editor named Donald Woods, who was writing, he was an anti-apartheid guy in East London, South Africa. The name of the newspaper was Daily Dispatch. My mother worked for him. So I went to high school for a year in South Africa.
Right.
And let's just say it was a different experience than the U.S. Like you had to wear uniforms, you got haircut inspections, you got caned. Like I don't know if they still do it over there, but I was the subject of many canings over my time there.
So that's what kind of developed you into the fine officer that you were later in life. Was it because you got the shit beat out of you?
Spare the rod, spoil the child. I remember the first time you had to do like.
Where did they hit you?
In the butt.
In the butt?
The first one though, we were so you had to do their athletics. They're very big into PT. So I played rugby, but we were in the pool and you had to wear like these Speedos with the school colors. I went to Cambridge High School in East London, South Africa, and we were counting off for something. And we all kept screwing up the counting off on purpose, thinking we were funny. So the coach made us all hop out of the pool in our wet Speedos. And I remember that was wicked painful.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I went in the privacy of my own bathroom. When I got home, I looked and I was like, I literally jumped back in the water and put my head underneath the waters because I wanted to cry. It hurt so bad.
Oh, wow. So it's just a cane pole, right?
Yeah, it's a bamboo pole. It's not like they do it across your back, but and I don't even know if they still do it, but back then it was very common.
Yeah.
They called it getting canings or whatever. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of, I would say, teenage boys that would help their demeanor in a big way. There's a lot of teenage boys that honestly, they just need to get their ass kicked. Like it would change the way their entire demeanor was. I see people like that all the time.
I'm like, that kid needs his ass kicked, is what I say.
Yeah. By no means am I promoting, child violence or whatever. Right? I'm just saying, like, when I was a teenager, I was an asshole. I'm still kind of an asshole, but no, I was a real big asshole.
But you shave now.
Yeah, I shave now. I've got real responsibilities,
You do.
Tons of shit has changed.
Some things stay the same. No,
but I was an asshole.
I got paddled in junior high and high school. I needed it.
Oh, my dad, he and I went a few rounds back in the day. We went a few rounds. All my teenage years. I hit him. So I punched him when I was like 14.
Was self-critiquing, I assume.
But it was interesting because you saw the shocked look on his face because he was like, I can't believe that just happened. As his glasses, he had those George Bush, era glasses. I remember those things flipping off his face.
The big ones.
Yeah. I remember those things flipping off his face.
Bush.
Yeah, HW, not W.
No, G.
And I remember him turning to me and the fire and frenzy in his eyes at that point where I had made a crucial mistake.
Yeah.
And That was like the first time. And then the second time, I think he might have thrown me out of the front door over the steps into the yard. I think he might have like tossed
Physically
me that.
threw you?
Yeah, physically threw me into the yard and then gave me a couple good tune-ups. He gave me a couple good tune-ups in the years. Yeah. But I need him. Like I was an asshole. Like I was a 16, 17, year old asshole. And like I needed him, man. Like,
well, I sort of approached command like that because I joined the military and I was one of those guys, right?
Right.
And I needed a lot of guidance. Here I reported to 2nd Marine Division, Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. I came from Washington State. I mean, I'd never been east of the Mississippi my entire life.
Right.
So
except for South Africa.
Except for South Africa, yeah, which was only slightly different than going from Washington State to North Carolina.
Right.
But, I think it was good NCOs like, kicking my ass and making sure that I stayed in line. And later in life, I as a battalion commander in Germany, I approached it that way. And I sort of looked at young troops and I would tell my, company commanders and stuff, I say, look, when I didn't brief a company commander, I say, from about 18 to 22, and, some people take offense at this and it doesn't apply to everyone.
Right.
Because we're a lot of it is our function of our upbringing. But
right.
I'd say that's what I call the booger-eating moron stage of life, right?
Yep.
So you're there and you don't have the sense God gave a goose. You're not a strategic thinker.
No.
You
have zero executive thought.
Listen,
like zero.
I would get, I remember my first few paychecks in the Marines, it was $106 every 2 weeks. And if I didn't have a meal card, I would have starved to death. I mean, literally. I would go out and I'd spend it all drinking and then I'd be like, sad sack until next pay period. And then I'd repeat the cycle all over again. So, the key to me with those young troops is because those kids the light will come on, right? They call it, I think in Psych 101, they call it a transition point or something like that, where all of a sudden you're like, hey, I got to start doing things different. And I remember when it happened to me. And I was on my way to Okinawa for my first tour. I did 2 tours in Okinawa in the Marines. My first one, and I was at Camp Pendleton waiting to get bussed up to the charter flight going to Okinawa. And I just remember I was, in some barracks somewhere shaving and said, hey man, you got to pull your head out of your ass. I mean, you've got to do things different. And I started going to school. I went over there and I got my high school diploma and I started going to college at night, in Camp Schwab, Okinawa. And it wasn't one epiphany or anything, right? It's a series of small victories. Like you do this and you do okay, and then you got a little more confidence and you try something else and it builds. But that, if you can help kids, young men and women through that period where they're not at that level, that light switch hasn't flipped yet for them, you're still going to have something great potentially come out the other end, even if they're a leadership challenge. And the other thing is, I said, the part of protecting them is you got to see what's getting them in trouble and try to find ways to mitigate that.
Right.
So in Germany, when I was battalion commander, designer drugs were a big thing over there. And
what's a designer drug?
Well, I think it's a special drug that they would make in a lab, like ecstasy or something. I think would be considered a designer drug. And it would stay in your system over a couple of days. So these, the other issue we had over there was you could go to Amsterdam and pot was legal up there.
Oh, yeah, right.
Remember that? So I told my company commanders, I said, you're required to do 1 year analysis on a weekend a quarter, right? And I want a leader walking through the barracks every weekend between 2200 and 04.
Right.
And that's among all the companies. So it wasn't that heavy of a burden. I was on the DA6 for that myself.
Right.
But the whole key is there was not to get anybody in trouble, but to send the message to those troops, hey, there's consequences here. And it's like if you're a guard and you're walking down a cell block at 02 every evening. Well, the jackassery stops at 01:59 and starts back up at 02.
Right.
So you got to be unpredictable and make, and when I grew up in the barracks, that was like Sodom and Gomorrah in the barracks. I mean, it was not, a lot of fist fights and everything else.
Really?
Yeah. So my point was, again, it's not about skewering everybody, but it was about, holding them accountable because that's part of your job as a leader, but also making them understand, okay, I can't do that.
Right.
If I do that, I could get caught. And so that comes off the plate of acceptable options for them in their off time. The other thing that I thought was very effective was after I do an Article 15 on a troop, so I dismiss them and send them out. And I apologize because I may have told this story before, but I'm pretty proud. I had a specialist, Kennedy. He was a generator mechanic in a motor pool. And he had been, I think he was one of the kids that went up to Amsterdam and got tested positive on a urinalysis. So he came in and he was an E3. We busted him to E1. And this is what I would do. And he's my example here. But after the Article 15 was complete, I'd call the kid back in, male or female. And they come back in and they're at attention. I say, okay, stand at ease, sit down. I've already held you accountable.
Right.
Now let's talk about what's next, right? Where are you going to go from here? Because again, the objective is not punishment isn't the objective there. It's a deterrence and it's good order and discipline, but you want to take this and find out what's next. And there's practical advantages for me. If I get a kid, it's like, hey, I want out. This sucks. I want out of the Army. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to invest any personal time in this troop. They're already checked out. But this particular kid, Kennedy, came in, young African-American kid. He came in, he was crying, and he sat to me and he was ashamed. So we talked and I said, okay, Kennedy, where are we going to go? Where do we go from here?
Right.
What do you want? What do you want to happen next? And he said, I want to recover from this and I want to be a successful soldier. I said, okay. So I'm going to help you. So every day I do walkabouts, and as part of my ROE, I'd walk around and just talk to troops, very low threat, right? And I go see him in the motor pool. And I was an aviation battalion commander, so trucks were not a priority for us, right? It was aviation maintenance was really where our stuff focus was on. But I'd always make a point of seeing him. And, and just, hey, how are things going? What you doing? And, how are things going? Well, so this happened probably 4 months into my command tour. So whatever, at the end of my 2 years, I was changed command. Kennedy was an E4. He was soldier of the quarter. And I picked him to give the roses to my wife. The outgoing commander gets red roses, wife, and the incoming commander's wife gets yellow. And it was a point to me. And it wasn't just, I was super proud of Kennedy.
Right.
But it was more like the signal that sent to everyone else. Like, hey, you can recover from a mistake.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, that's part of that protecting these troops and not, throwing the baby out with the bathwater because they've had a misstep. Because I had lots of missteps. I had lots of things that I should have got an Article 15.
Did you, though? Like, I find that hard to believe.
Well, when I say I had a lot of missteps, yeah.
Right.
I just didn't get caught.
No, it's fair.
Well,
fair.
I was I'll give you an example. So we were in the Philippines on a float with,
It's a family show.
Yes.
Just so you know.
I am well aware. So, we were on the beach. We had done our exercise with the Filipino Marines and we were going back out to our ships the next day. I drove these amphibious assault vehicles. So we're sitting on the beach while the local town threw a party.
Right.
Of course, we weren't allowed to go, right? Because I was an E2 or an E3, probably an E3. So this buddy of mine, Rob Powell, I think he lives in Ohio, but he's like, hey, we're going to go. We're going to that party.
We're going to go.
So we hitch a ride on a deuce and a half. We go in there. We're drinking San Miguel beer.
It's good beer.
Completely.
Good beer.
Yeah, it is. I've been to several floats to the Philippines over the years. And, we were totally weren't supposed to do that. And, so we're walking, we're trying, and by the way, we were the next morning at 07, we're taking off to go back. Our vehicles are getting launched to swim out to the ship and we're, sailing away.
Right.
And if you miss that, it's called missing a movement, if you remember that. That's a big deal, right? That's
one of the biggest deals.
Oh, yeah. So we're it's 5:45 in the morning or 6 in the morning. We're drunk as hell. We're walking back. We're 5 miles from the beach in this little town. And I mean, we are totally screwed. And this deuce and a half pulls up. And I just remember it was a bunch of drunk officers and NCOs in the back. We flagged it down. And when I'm like, why are you guys out here? And this guy I'm with, he said, well, sir, we were here. They asked us to come out and police up all the NCOs and officers and the sailors, because the sailors got to come in off the ship and go to the summit, not all of them, but the leadership. We were here just to make sure everybody was, back on, back off the town and everything. So that's what we're doing, sir. I'm like, okay, we'll get on. I mean, like that could have went south, right? If that deuce and a half didn't stop, I would have missed a movement. So there were numerous events. But again, I was in that young age where I didn't make good decisions, right? Because life's about choices. But eventually that light comes on, and what you want to do is protect those troops until that light comes on. Or at least you can't protect them within bounds. But
I get that. I mean, well, the brain doesn't even fully develop until you're 24. So you're still, your brain's still developing, like your kids. And I 100% agree. The command relationship with, especially the younger soldiers, like you have to protect them from themselves.
Exactly right.
You really do.
Right. And then even when they screw up, if you can, and you can't always, right? If you can, give them a second chance. I mean, it depends on what they do.
Absolutely. It depends on what they do. But between, 18 and 24, statistically, you're going to make a lot of bad decisions. Like you're going to just make bad decisions. Like I made bad decisions.
But the system is less tolerant today than it was.
You can't do it.
No, you had a lot of latitude to handle things at a lower level.
I drove drunk when I was that age, I would imagine. At least multiple times.
I did too.
And
I never was in trouble for it. I've never had a DUI, but I definitely made poor choices.
Well, and I think that's a good example of if I would have got a Dewey while in, arguably it could have ruined anything that I wanted to do professionally.
A DUI is an unrecoverable event.
It is.
I mean,
but when you first joined,
it was not that way.
It wasn't that way, right?
Yeah. When I came in, company parties, you had one drink choice.
Right.
It was beer. Now it was 3-2 beer.
Right.
Back in the day. But that's what you had. There wasn't like this the way it is now, which is better. You have water and soda. You have options.
Right.
Right. Back then, company parties, you got a hot dog, a hamburger, and a beer.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
That's what you got. So I agree. And my youngest son is a junior at Clemson. Right. And sometimes he'll make decisions. And I have 2 older boys that are now graduated college. One's married. And some of their decisions would frustrate us. And, I'd have to tell my wife, I said, because we're looking at it through the lens of someone who's had that life experience.
Right.
So my oldest son, he came up with it. He goes, I'm going to get a dog. I was like, my wife's like, that's a horrible idea. And I'm like, I think you should get 2. Why? Because life's the best teacher, right? So I said, it's fun to have a dog when you pet him and, but then you walk away from them when they chewing up your stuff and they're crapping on your floor and you don't have a way to walk them. You're working long hours. I said, we can say it till we're blue in the face, but some things you just have to experience, right? And I told my wife, I said, that's not catastrophic. Now we may end up with a dog out of this.
Or two.
Right. But my point was that they're going to learn that lesson. Mm-hmm. They're going to get a dog, and one of them did, and he had to turn it back. It just his lifestyle, his job wasn't conducive for that. Mm-hmm. But he would have never listened to us.
No.
So to me, that's part of it is let them make mistakes. Now you don't want them to be like, hey, I'm getting, I'm going to, I want to. One of my youngest son is a chemistry major at Clemson.
Right.
Well, I'm going to, I want to manufacture explosives in my apartment. Well, no, that's not in the acceptable realm.
Dad, do you think I could make methamphetamine? I think I might be able to out of some. Yeah, you'd be like, no, absolutely not. What are you talking about?
That is definitely a
that's like.
Yeah, that's a King's X. We are not doing that.
That concludes today's training. Any questions?